Welcome, everyone, to the Rant podcast, Chicago Cubs podcast. We are broadcasting to you on Thursday, May 8th. And exciting news. It's pretty exciting, I think. The new Pope, just moments ago, we may be the first live podcast going since the new Pope has been elected. And just announced moments ago, he's from Chicago, a Chicago native. And we're hearing he's a Cubs fan. Those are the rumors going on right now. And I think this is good news.
Sure. I mean, it can't hurt, right?
It can't be bad.
I don't know. I suppose that depends on your affiliation there and how you view such things. But yeah, I mean, hey, if they've got God's ear just a little bit better, you know, I don't know. Maybe that helps.
If there's a guy you want on your side, if you can look around the world and you just one guy you want on your side, I mean, the Pope's up there, right?
Sure. I guess we'll see how this comes through. But yeah, I was the news stations were really milking this because I was at the gym like on my lunch break to do a little workout. And, you know, you've got like Fox News, ABC, CBS, CNN, like every one of them showing the same shot right outside the Vatican, right? Moments away. Like we've been moments away for the last, however, since the white smoke went up from the conclave. And so, but I'm like, also the TVs are muted, of course, it's in the gym, right? So all I can see is like some byline across the bottom, like so-and-so theologian, so-and-so, like Catholic Vatican
guys, this is like their moment in the sun, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like this is the day for them.
Yeah, like the Catholic studies professor from Notre Dame, like, oh, cool. So the only people outside your campus.
That guy doesn't get a lot of time.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure in the circles in which they run, I'm sure a lot. But for those of us here covering Cubs baseball, generally talk about how the Catholic Church convenes and determines its head is not typically our cup of tea.
And yet here we are. And yes, of course, there's lots of, I'm looking at Twitter, Marquee Sports Network just tweeted Pope Leo, a Chicago native, is a Cubs fan. Yeah, lots of these things going on, of course. What more could we ask for? We will move forward with the blessing of the Catholic Church and start talking about the Cubs, because that's important too. And the Cubs coming off losing 2 out of 3 against the San Francisco Giants. Not entirely unexpected. A good quality team in San Francisco. Are they in first place? They're close. It's like back and forth between them and the Dodgers.
There's a bunch of them that are all. I mean, them, the Padres, the Dodgers are all.
And the Padres,
great. Yeah. And I mean, the Diamondbacks are very good as well. So that the only team in the division the Cubs haven't played yet there is the Rockies, and they get them later this month. So almost
looking forward to that one.
Yeah, with this gauntlet, it'll be nice to play a bad NL West team for once.
It sure will. I mean, the Cubs have, let's just go through the games real quick, I guess. On Monday they won 9-2. Things were looking good. Happen Kelly homered, Swanson 3 for 4. He's been red hot lately. Boyd pitched 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 7 Ks, looking really good. And then we go forward to Tuesday, and Tuesday the Cubs make a comeback. Feeling pretty good about the comeback. They even the score. Was it the bottom of? Was it the 9th or the 8th? Yep. I think it was the 8th inning.
9th
inning. They scored 2 runs.
Go to extras, yeah.
And they scored 2 runs to go to extras. They kind of scratched their way back in there, and then Ryan Presley just looked like trash.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good when you record no outs. I think they did end up initially when I looked at it. I think he didn't have a whiff. I think maybe he did end up getting 1 on his curveball, but recorded no outs. Gave up 9 runs, 8 of which were earned because of the Manfred man on second to start the inning. But like, it wasn't kind of, we saw this. I think talked about it with Ben Brown a couple weeks ago in Philly, where wheels fell off for him in 1 inning. But like half the contact he gave up were these little duck snort flares that you can kind of be like, oh, okay, maybe that should have been. But like Presley's been getting hit hard. He still has more walks than strikeouts. He's only struck out 5 batters on the season with 8 walks. Strikeout rate, whiff rate are first percentile, right? Like, and this is, and I totally look. I get that he had actually been getting pretty good results prior to that, and that this one bad inning, especially with him having the knee issue, his innings are pretty limited. He's only at 13. So having one explosion, in which doesn't even count as an inning, right? Because he didn't record an out. So all of a sudden it looks bad. But like, I don't want to say it should have been this bad, but all the indications were that he was due for some very bad correction, because you can't have a late inning reliever who can't miss bats, dude. You just can't. And he is literally among the worst in the league when it comes to strikeout rate. And it's just, when you pair that with a really horrible hard hit rate, like he's first percentile in both, you don't miss bats. When they do square you up, they take you a long way. Oof. And it just snowballed. It was pretty rough.
Well, and it gives you some insight as to why the Astros were insistent that he wasn't going to be their closer, and then had really no problem getting rid of him.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't want to say it's good, but I think, and I wrote about this earlier. Some of it is maybe correctable. If that, I think there's some things mechanically that he's doing that probably came out of that knee issue. He's opening up a little bit. He's probably and he probably doesn't even know I know he doesn't know he's doing it. If he did, he wouldn't be doing it. But I think a lot of that is, the body is a compensation machine. And if you got a weakness somewhere, your body is going to try to do things differently in order to make up for that. So I think having that knee hurt is causing his body to kind of, on the top side, his torso is coming open a little bit more. And you can see it. Like, you can look at the numbers, his curveball, which is always been kind of slurvy to begin with, but it's getting an inch or two more horizontal break than what it typically has. And then his fastball, which has always had at least a slight bit of arm side run, is actually moving glove side by an inch for the first time in his entire career, at least since StatCast started being able to track these things back in 2015. So we're talking about the first time in a decade that his fastball is moving glove side versus arm side, which, if you think about coming open with that front shoulder, you're going to pull things a little bit to the left. And I mean, in some cases, guys overcompensate again the other way, and they end up pushing it back toward the right. But it's pretty evident that he's pulling things a little bit. Is that the only problem? No, but it does point to some mechanical inefficiencies that at least the Cubs are aware of. Tommy Hotovy talked about this with the media recently. So hopefully they can get on top of it. But again, I don't think this is a thing that in the meantime he can continue to serve in high leverage situations, because he's got to have some low leverage stuff to at least figure it out. And then if he can, maybe he gets another shot again. But I think until such time as he can prove himself, there's no way you can put him out there against any sort of competent hitters, because he just can't strike guys out.
He just can't get guys out.
Well,
forget about striking guys out.
Yeah.
He can't get guys out.
He does. Now, here, the only thing, and here's what's helped him, right? Because if you look at all the numbers free of context, you would be like, there's no way this guy's making outs. The thing that happens, he's getting a lot of ground balls, right? He gets them at like a 56% clip or something like that. So that when he does walk that guy or give up that hit, that he's at least getting some double plays and getting those grounders to avoid the damage prior to this. But I think just like with any other aberration, right? What happened the other night is not the norm. However, what had happened in the previous few games when he didn't give up any runs was also not the norm. So you're looking at somebody in the middle who again, middle relief in a game when you're up comfortably and you're facing the bottom of the order. Yes, great. Let him go out there and make sure mechanically he is sound and can figure some things out. But I don't trust this dude at all right now in the late innings, because he's shown me nothing. Even in the good performances, there's nothing there to indicate that he can consistently close out games at the major league level.
I mean, but I'm more worried. I'm not. Yeah, I think as far as a closer, he's got to be out of there. It has to be Porter Hodge. Porter Hodge has looked so much better than Ryan Presley has. It's not even a question. It's really more of, does Ryan Presley have a spot in the bullpen for the Cubs at all.
I
And I
mean,
mean,
when
I
you,
guess we
yeah,
do we need more. I guess maybe a couple more meltdowns, but
yeah. I mean, I think the fact that they've identified, and I guess we could look at this and say, like, there are certain circumstances when people say, you know, oh, they're just making up excuses. But like, we know, like, the dude had his knee drained, right? Like, we know there was an issue with the knee. We know that he missed a few games as a result of it. And so there are some, and you can see kind of when he came back from that immediately, he looked a little bit better in that situation. But I think when you have that's not maybe I think we talked about this maybe a couple episodes ago where I said, I don't think that it was some acute thing where he like fell over a curb or bumped his knee on something. He was probably pitching through it because if that was the case, they would have figured it out. Like, he wouldn't have pitched through it and created these mechanical issues. My assumption is that he's been hiding this or had been hiding it for a while, which is what caused the mechanical issue and the compensation. Now he's got to work back from that. But that, despite what people think, right, these professionals are not necessarily able to simply on the turn of a dime just replicate their better mechanics all over again, right? He should be able to adjust quickly, but I think we need to see what's going on there. And the other issue is, like, who else do they have? Because look what they've been doing in the
that
meantime.
is the problem.
They're still going out there and signing Michael Fulmer again to a minor league deal and waiting on Ryan Brazier, who just began his rehab stint in Iowa. So, I mean, Tyson Miller, who has been throwing down in Iowa, but still feels very much like a dude who they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop on that, because boy, did he look pretty bad in the offseason. So, or in the preseason. I mean, I feel like they definitely have to make this work because it's a dude you traded for. It's a veteran. He's been a closer before for a very good team. They want it to work out, and I think they're going to do everything in their power to get it back to some sort of passable pitching. But man, it is like, that was just rough. It got funny. Like, it got to the point, like, I got tired of watching the game. It was late, and I needed to jump in the shower. And the Giants were still batting when I got out of the show. Like, it got so bad that I decided not to watch it and take a shower. It remained so bad that and it wasn't like I was in there for 20 minutes, but it was long enough that they were still batting, and I was like, what is happening here? But I think at least Thielbar was in at that point, so I didn't have to watch Presley anymore.
And he's been good, surprisingly. Like, Thielbar started out a little rough, but man, he's been pretty solid since.
Yeah.
So there's a bright spot.
And most of them have. I mean, the bullpen has not been as bad lately. Right? I mean, when you look at, like, again, that one implosion, that was one player. They held overall, like, they held the Giants down 2 runs on Monday and only 3 runs on Wednesday. And if you look at, even on in Tuesday's game, that wasn't like some terrible bullpen implosion outside of the very end. So, I mean, they've actually been really good in a lot of those situations. And I think Craig Counsell has largely figured it out. But then when you're sitting there kind of, again, looking at it like, okay, we can string together a few innings from the 6th to the, 6th, 7th, 8th, but the 9th is going to be an adventure, and we can't trust that. So yeah, they got to get that figured out to say the least.
Yeah. And so, and then yesterday, the Cubs run up against Robbie Ray, who's been lights out this year. He's 5-0. He's got a 2.84 ERA on the year. He's just been really, really good for the Giants, and he shut them down. And like, I don't want to say this is a trend, but the Cubs have been shut down by really good pitchers. I mean, just on Sunday, Peralta came in and totally dominated, right? And so that's not like a huge concern right now, but what it does is it gives you a glimpse into what the postseason might look like if and when the Cubs make it to the postseason. Like, is that something to be concerned about? Is that the Cubs are having a hard time, at least early in the season, breaking through on these quality pitchers?
I'm less concerned about that specifically than I am the fact that the Cubs themselves are missing their top 2 pitchers, both of whom are lefties at this point. But we know Steele's done for the entire season and well into next year. Mm-hmm. And now Shota Imanaga's down for, an undetermined amount of time, but more than likely I don't think it'll be a minimum stay on the IL. I think he's definitely going to need. I mean, Justin Steele was out for over a month when he messed up his hamstring last year. Now, is this the same exact thing? It's the first time it's ever happened with Imanaga. He's not even really sure how to react to it, right? Which is kind of understandable. It's the first time it's ever happened to you in your career.
Yeah.
Seems a little weird, but I think they have to treat him with kid gloves to an extent. Like, you can't throw him back out there. Like, we already saw him leave the one game with muscle cramps, which unrelated, but still feels, you know, I don't know if predictive is the right term, because again, it wasn't the same thing, but that makes it tough. And so that's where I get concerned is who they have, unless in the inevitable situation where Cade Horton will come up, whether that's this Saturday, and it should be, they've got to get those, the top of their rotation. Like, hey, Colin Ray's been really good. Wasn't as good the last time out, but has been very good. Matt Boyd has been better than expected. They've gotten some really nice performances out of dudes that were not necessarily, and Jameson Taillon has looked really good the last few times out. But is the Cubs rotation right now? Certainly not. But I mean, even if you had those guys all healthy, do you feel like they stack up? Because they don't necessarily have the feel to me. Could Steele shut guys down? Absolutely. And he was shutting down the Rangers before his elbow barked at him and he kept pitching through it. Imanaga has looked good and had the Brewers scoreless till he had to leave, But I just don't feel like the Cubs have those guys who you're like, yeah, I can count on this dude when he's on the bump to go dominate this other team and guarantee that all the Cubs have to do is score 2 runs and they're going to win, where it does feel like those contenders have that, And I mean, when the Cubs were World Series and in 2015, even, obviously Arrieta was even better in 2015, but you had Arrieta and Lester and Hendricks. You're like, okay, I'll put that top 3 up against any other team in baseball. But right now,
Don't feel that way.
No, you go like Boyd, Taillon, Brown, and Ray. Like that. Is that the group that you're like, yeah, man, this is woo, let's go? Not so much.
So we just saw Tommy Birch from the Des Moines. Is he? Yeah, he's with the Des Moines Register still. Has just confirmed that Cade Horton will be joining the Cubs in New York for the upcoming series against the New York Mets. Still no word on whether he will be starting on Saturday, but that would be the expectation, I would think.
He has to. I mean, it's stupid if he doesn't, right? Like, they definitely have to.
Yeah. And so that could be exciting. I mean, if he comes up and shoves, he's been doing really good in Iowa. I'll pull up his numbers, but
4 ERA right now, something like that.
Yeah.
He's got 33 strikeouts in 6 starts. The last 2 starts have both been 6 innings. He's on a bit of a pitch limit. They're holding him to 80. I don't even know if he's reached 80. And that's what was kind of funny is somebody was like, oh, you can't have Horton start. He can't give him 9 innings. I'm like looking around like, my brother, where are you seeing anybody go 9 innings for any team anymore?
Yeah, is that what we're trying to do here?
It's not 1988, my friend. Nobody's like, they're struggling to get Ben Brown through 5. If Horton can give him 4 or 5, and that's the thing, is like, Chris Flexen, like, again, guys, like Flexen's last start with Iowa was only an inning. He pitched 3 for the Cubs as kind of a piggyback, and the last 2 where he's gone back to back have only been an inning apiece. He ain't giving you 5 or 6 either. And Jordan Wicks just started yesterday, so it's not going to be him. Like, I think a lot of people are skeptical of it because they think, oh, the Cubs don't, they treat these guys, again, I'll repeat myself rather than continuing to stutter through all this, but treat them with kid gloves. But at a certain point, you have to look at it and say, hey, this guy is dominating AAA hitting. There's nothing left for him to prove. We already knew he was our top pitching prospect. He has been for a while. Bring him up because the need is there. And then I don't at all for a second buy this idea that, oh, you don't want to have him start in New York against a good team. Like, hey, well, hold on.
I think that's irrelevant.
Yeah, you got to get him up there at some point. Get him up quick. Have him face him, because guess what? When he does start against the Mets, you know what the next 3 teams are in his rotation if he maintains it? The White Sox, the Marlins, and the Rockies. So I'm pretty sure he'll be okay with those. And again, Greg Zumak from Northside Bound pointed this out. This is a dude who pitched in the College World Series for Oklahoma, who went to Oklahoma to play football, which I know it's a baseball podcast, but just to let folks know, like Oklahoma's a fairly rabid football fan base there. There's a lot of folks who pay attention to things that go on in Norman. And so this is not a dude who's afraid of the spotlight. If anything, they should want to put him in there, and he should want to face the best teams. If you got to take your top pitching prospect and baby him against bad teams just so his confidence isn't hurt, that's not a guy I want on my team anyway. So I need a guy who's got some dog in him, and I think Horton's that dude. So I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, it's exciting. Definitely exciting news. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this is a big series for the Cubs coming up because, you go into a hostile environment against the Mets, who are just freaking on fire. I mean, they've started out. Did they have the best record in all of baseball? Not quite.
No.
I mean, the Dodgers are
They're
starting to pull away from the pack, but 24-14. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So maybe there's a little chink in the armor there. If the Cubs could go into New York and get 2 out of 3, which there's no reason to believe they're not, and let's see I'm not sure what the pitching matchup is because we don't know who's going on Saturday for sure, but it's
Tyon and Boyd, right?
I just had it. It's Tyon versus Clay Holmes, and then whoever on Saturday versus Tyler Miguel, and then Matt Boyd versus Griffin Canning. So not many household names there for the Mets. Tyler, I know Trevor McGill.
Yeah, they're brothers. Shocking. I know.
Shocking. And so, but yeah, I mean, they've the Mets have been playing well in New York, always exciting. And the games are a little earlier. Well, they're not super late. Let's put it that way. 6 p.m., 6:10, 6:15. And then an 11:05 Central Time start on, is that Sunday? That is Sunday. Yeah. Mother's Day. Oh my gosh. So we've got, I'm on the West Coast ish in Arizona, and that'll be 9 a.m. my time.
It's a little
Not
weird.
Sure my wife will be okay with that.
Yeah. Let her sleep in. She won't even know.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, I like that. We always go to like this breakfast place, which requires us to get up early, which is counter to what my wife usually likes to do because she does like to sleep in. So for this one day, she does get up early, and so we'll see what happens there. But one thing I wanted to touch on that I think is pretty fascinating is I went back and I started to look at how the Cubs' record in different games of the series that they played in. And so in the first game, the second game, and then the last game of the series, be it the third or fourth, because they've only had 1 4-game series so far this year, and that was against the Diamondbacks in the season opener. The Cubs in the first game of a series are 10-2.
It's good.
And that's very good, obviously. 833 win percentage. And then in the second game of a series, they're 8-4. Again, very good. 667 win percentage. But in the last game of a 3-game or more series, they are 4-8. They just cannot put it away. And it just, for some reason, they don't have that killer instinct in the last game of the series. I mean, the only series that they swept the A's, and then they swept the Dodgers, but that was only a 2-game series. And the A's are actually playing pretty good, surprisingly. I think they're in second place. And so in not a very good division. And so what does that say to you? What should I take away from that? I mean, they come into a series feeling really good, playing really strong, knowing they have to get off to a good start. And then do they kind of lose focus? I mean, what's happening here?
I'm not entirely sure. Because early on, before some of the, and I believe right that like they have not lost a series opening game at home yet, have they? I don't think they have.
Well, they're 10-2, so I mean,
I guess
go back
technically they were home for Tokyo, so I guess not.
Yeah.
But
Oh wait, you know what? My numbers don't include Tokyo.
Oh well, either way, it doesn't really count.
That
But
didn't count.
no, it's a little frustrating because it does feel like that whole kind of meatloaf thing with Joe Madden, and that we saw with David Ross, especially on Sundays, and it kind of felt like, Sundays are for the birds. We'll just throw in whoever the hell we need to have play that day, and we'll go with that, and I can't really chalk it up to anything other than just it's a funky part of the way the numbers are broken down, because I really don't think there's anything underlying that's like psychological that they're just saying, because again, like the Giants series, I think it would be different. They split that. It's 1-1 and then they drop the third. I could understand it a little bit more. Like I could start looking at trends if they had won the first 2 games of every 3-game series and they kept dropping the third. But I don't think that's really a situation with it. So I don't know if it's, boy, is it because it's coming at a certain time of day? Is it the matchups have just been particularly weird? I think there's all kinds of dumb baseball stuff that can kind of come into it. But it is, it is a little, it'll continue to be concerning, or it will be concerning if it continues. And we're talking about this in June, and it's like, man, they still just can't win that third or fourth game or whatever. So I don't know, but it's frustrating. And I think that being frustrating, losing the last game always feels like they did in Milwaukee. And then you have the dummies up there like waving goodbye to the Cubs fans who are leaving. I'm like, folks, they beat the pants off you the first 2 games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's point at the scoreboard and see what's going on here. This is silly. But it does always feel worse to lose that last game, especially if you're leaving home on a loss, as they are with this weird schedule that they've had when it's like, pop back to Wrigley for 3 games, so.
Yeah, well, and a lot of these games are on Sunday, right? I
Yep.
mean, a lot of they are that. So they've got 5. They're 1-5 on Sundays.
Yeah, that's frustrating, right, to say the least. But I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this with all kinds of other things, is like you see a problem. This is what people complain about a lot of times with us, and it's like, which is funny because you're only happy about Dansby Swanson. You're only writing about Dansby Swanson because he's good. I'm like, no, we write about people when they're doing poorly too. But that's, to me, I think the knee-jerk reaction is a lot of times to look at some, it's luck, it's something, but there's typically underlying things, and I do like digging into those. However, in this circumstance, I just want to point at it and be like, I feel like it's just some weird fluke that'll even out by the time the season's over. But I
Gotta
don't know.
hope
I guess
so.
we'll have to find out.
Yeah. You sure do hope that this is something that does work its way out. But as you mentioned with David Ross, it was winning on Sundays was a problem. And so it feels like a continuation of that.
Yeah. Although, we've seen.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah. And we've seen Craig Counsell do some, definitely do some different things. There's some stuff that's out there that I think for the most part, he's made perfectly fine decisions. There's some weird ones that are out there at times too, but does it come down to, is it a matter of you had to really burn through a lot of bullpen guys, some of your high leverage guys in those first couple games to make sure you got through it. And then by the time you got to the last one, if you guys were down, the situation has changed. Is it cyclical? It's also weird. And we talked about this before where, they had so many days off in April, 6 days off in April,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like 2 Mondays every Thursday. That's a weird cadence. And so was there, because again, they were like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then off Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, or, and then they'd have like Tuesday, Wednesday against the Dodgers, and then off Thursday, and then they play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and off Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, and so it was always on a Sunday. So I don't know. I'd have to look at it more clearly, but I think once we, get another month in, and if it still looks like it's weird, then we start looking at it and be like, what the hell's going on? So
Yeah. I guess I'm just preempting that a little bit.
Could always happen. Who knows? Maybe it'll continue.
And so it feels like Craig Counsell has got the order. Well, he's got the order a little bit better. Justin Turner to me is just like, I don't know, like how long the Cubs are going to need to ride with him for, but man, I really hope Shaw comes back up and I mean, I think Birdie's definitely more useful in the lineup than Justin Turner is. Justin Turner got that hit the other day to drive in a run, but it was a fastball and he just was late on it and just got lucky and drove it to the other field.
That's what it's like. Hey, that slow bat speed paid off for you, baby. Let's go.
And so other than that, I mean, the guy really hasn't done anything good. And I'd argue that wasn't even good, even though it drove in a run. It's just like, it was kind of one of those things that just kind of worked out. But man, he's been really rough. I mean, what do you think the deal is with Shaw? And when we talked about him in the last episode, and we talked about them taking their time to bring him back up, but I really feel like the time has been taken, right? Like he needs to come up here today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really struggling, and I get it. It's the same thing as, I'll equate this to like the varsity baseball team here. There's a couple seniors on the team who just they don't play, like, ever. Maybe one of them courtesy ran or something like that once, and it on one hand I look at it and say, why would you keep a senior on the team who's never going to play? On the other, I do look at that and say, hey, this is somebody who's dedicated a lot of time and blood, sweat, tears to the program, and if they're not playing, well, what are you going to do with that roster spot? Are you going to call up a younger guy to play there? Well, of course not, because then they're not playing and they need to be getting reps because they're younger. So similarly, I look at that and say, well, the Vidal Brujan spot, the Justin Turner spot, like, and we could sit there and be like, why are these guys even here? But it's like, okay, well, who do you want in that spot, or who can you put in that spot? Because I sure as hell don't want a young guy coming up and being Vidal Brujan and playing once every 4 days as a pinch runner, or like with Turner. Again, what is that spot? Now, one could say if you got rid of Turner, you move Shaw up. Birdie now occupies that sort of part-time role, because I do think John Birdie is best served as that jack of all trades, base running guy. Play, give a couple different guys a day off here and there, but not as a regular. I mean, when the third base rotation is Nicky Lopez and John Birdie, right? There's very, very little power there. Lopez can pick it pretty well at third base. Birdie, questionable, but has made some plays and is generally competent, and his bat's been okay. But he's not a corner infield bat, and so that's why when I look at Shaw, I'm like, I feel like
he's good on the bases.
Yeah, he can run well. I mean, he can. I think
it.
Second base is probably where he's far more ideal as far as a replacement type guy. I'm not sure about that arm. Like, that throw the other day, but
it was terrible.
It just feels like they're basically. Have you ever done the thing where you get your cars on E and you just keep driving it to see how far? There's like a whole. I've never. I'm way too.
Was it what?
Kramer did it
Office?
on.
No, you're right. It's Seinfeld.
Yeah. And there's like a whole, I don't know if it's a Reddit thing or there's like online groups of people who see how far they can get it once it goes to E or to zero. I feel like the Cubs are going to try to run that third base situation down to zero before the car pulls over at the side of the road, and then they call Shaw to come in and deliver a can of gas. That's what it feels like, because, buddy, I tell you what, I'm never stoked about anybody I see in that third base spot right now. There's nobody in there who you could say,
yeah,
you can be excited about this guy being here for more than a game at a time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't. So, if nothing else, like Shaw, look, he made a few errors here and there, but it's not like it's any worse than anybody else that they've had there. And he made some really, really good plays there too. It's wild that we're sitting here saying, and not just us, but even the folks, social media, whatever, like, man, bring Shaw up, even if it's just for the glove, even if you can't hit. You're like, wow, it's kind of an indictment about how else they've built that roster. But I guess we'll see. But I'm hoping it'll be soon. But I do wonder if they'll, same thing with him, if they want to give him a softer landing, maybe on his next call up, and they wait to see maybe what happens with the next couple series. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, right? Like, and we've talked about this, is things get a lot easier after this New York series. The Cubs go back home They have 3 against the Marlins and then a day off, and then 3 against the White Sox. And then they travel to Miami, to Cincinnati, and then they play the Rockies, the Reds. I'm just going to keep going until it gets hard. The Nationals, and then the Tigers. And then all right. And then the Phillies. And so that'll get a little tough. But then, Pirates, Brewers, then Mariners. Yeah. It's we're gonna get, and that's the thing that I'm kind of excited to see is like this offense has been so good so early in the season. And typically things really start to open up offensively for the Cubs when it starts to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, man, it's hard to think that this team is going to be able to open it up come June or July. But if they do, they're going to be scoring 10 runs a game.
Well, that would be nice. It'd be better than the one in the last one, and that's the only thing. And it was that was what was kind of frustrating is like yesterday's game seemed tailor-made, and that's what the Giants were able to do. The wind blowing in, kind of gusting balls around all over, and the Cubs got a little bit of benefit from that from Nico Horner and Pete Armstrong. But when you look at a team like this, and the batting average has been really good, the power has been far more than we expected. The aggressiveness on the bases has been there. That felt like a game that should have been kind of tailored to the way the Cubs have built the team, to where they don't need a bunch of home runs to win. But then if you run into that situation where you're too reliant on power and now home runs are getting knocked down to the warning track or shy of it, and they're just fly balls, that's how you get in trouble. And that's where it's like, man, Nico Horner's game fit perfectly into and Pete Armstrong's as well, even though he has obviously flashed a lot more power. But it's get that ball down in front of the outfielders and then get aggressive on the bases and push guys over. They just weren't able to do it, and the Giants were, and that's what it kind of came down to in the end. So I hope that they continue to maintain the patient plate approach, but then be aggressive on the bases so they can manufacture some more runs versus just kind of waiting for that to happen via the home run ball. And when they're doing that, when it's, hey, we're just driving the ball into the gaps and home runs are happy accidents, I think that's when they're at their best. So, again, hopefully that continues, because if we do get another summer with the wind blowing in at Wrigley, that's where the offense is going to be significantly challenged.
Yeah, well, they've got the power bat, and that was what we were saying before they signed Kyle Tucker, was that the Cubs at the end of last season was the Cubs needed to add a power bat. They absolutely did that. He's playing the part. He's everything's going well with the offense. Other players around him are starting to play really well. And so there's not really any reason to be concerned about this team offensively. They're the one of, if not the top offense in all of baseball through what is usually, colder, wetter months. And they're doing really well. So I'm just excited to see how this team performs once it starts to heat up. They're 22-16 right now, 6 games over 500. So a lot to feel good about. You don't want to get too ahead of yourself, but if the Cubs can get the third base situation ironed out, if Matt Shaw can come up and be solid in that position, at least defensively, and then work out the offensive kinks. He hasn't been hitting real well. I'm looking at his numbers right now in Iowa. So far this month, he only has 3 hits and 22 at bats. So that's not great. And so, he was really good when he first came up to Iowa, and kind of the last half of April did really well. But it's kind of cooled down a little bit. And so maybe that's what's delaying his arrival in Chicago. We'll see. And then if the Cubs can figure out the bullpen, which just, it feels like this is going to be a conversation we're going to be having all year.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we kind of have to, right? It's if you go out there and buy a beater of a used car and you're just going to have to basically, it's like, hey, going to have to replace a quarter panel here and needs a new muffler. Oh, got a new front right tire. I mean, that's kind of what Jed Hoyer has done with the bullpen, right? Like
the bullpen is a jalopy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. And that he has intentionally piecemealed this thing together. Didn't want to spend much money on it. Understandable to an extent, Although, again, that's where it goes back to when people are pointing at them being in first place, was they're still responding to the reel that was created from one of these pods like a month and a half ago when we were talking about how the Cubs are spending so little of revenue on payroll, and then they'll be like, well, they're in first place. Yes, that is correct, but there's this idea that like just being good enough is good enough. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, if you want to be a contender, you can't just be good enough to be in first place in the NL Central in early May. Like you need to have something more than that. And they easily could have gone out and the argument could be made that they tried to spend some more money on the bullpen. And then people go the exact opposite route, be like, you can't just buy a bullpen. It's like, well, folks, nobody's saying they need to go. Yeah. I mean, you literally can, but it's like, ideally what you would do is you'd pay some good money for one or two of those guys, fill a couple of spots with like the reclamation projects, fill a couple more with guys who come up through the system. It's all a balance. And at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for. But I mean, right now, and again, whether it be because they didn't spend the money at the outset, whether it's because guys aren't performing as well as they had hoped, whether it's injuries, I mean, and these things are going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to have, or maybe we won't be as derogatory about it, and we'll simply say that, like, if you're the baseball season's a marathon, right? It's an ultra marathon. It's the Tour de France. And if you are riding in that, you do not have just your one bike with your two tires. Like, you have to have a whole ass repair kit with extra tires and extra gears and extra chains, because if those things break, you've got to be able to fix them. You can't just let that derail your whole race. And the bullpen is going to be like that. Even the best, most expensive bullpen is going to, at some point, deal with injuries, deal with overuse, whatever. And so, yeah, we'll be talking about it the whole time because we have to. But I just hope the Cubs can continue to find some consistency, ideally with, whatever that looks like for Ryan Presley. Like, to me, he has to be he doesn't have to be the closer again, but he can't be a disaster, right? Like, he's got to be a decent pitcher for them. And I think that solves a lot of issues right there.
Yeah. Well, I know it's early May, but to me, the Cubs being in the division they're in, it looks very winnable. There's absolutely no reason the Cubs shouldn't win this division. And so then you've got to start projecting towards the playoffs. And it just feels like without the pitching nailed down, and there's plenty of time to address it, the Cubs are going to have to make some trades. I mean, if they have any hope of winning a playoff series, they're going to have to make some trades. I mean, I don't know that they necessarily need a starter. It wouldn't hurt. But they're definitely going to have to shore up that bullpen in some way, shape, or form, because it just doesn't look like there's any help coming there. Now, Cade Horton can come up and shove and be the starter that the Cubs can rely on. He's probably not going to pitch that many innings, so that becomes a problem. And so it feels like there's these problems that are going to be off in the horizon in the distance that we really don't need to totally worry about right now. But you can see that when the time comes, we're going to have to figure it out.
You got to be aware of them. And that's the thing, is they can't just sneak up on you. And then and I don't think that's the case for Jed Hoyer. So I'm not indicating this is what he's doing, but obviously, like, they have to be proactive about it. They can't just wait until, July 28th or whatever and be like, oh crap, we got to find another reliever.
Oh,
right? Like
make some calls.
And I think they'll have to be, by necessity, but I think they also want to be somewhat aggressive there. Sometimes if you can jump the market a little bit and avoid some kind of a bidding war with a team, if you do have a standout reliever, who's looking to be dealt, if you can jump on that in mid-July, that may help. So certainly, and I'm interested again, what Cade Horton's able to do. And I would not be surprised in the least, right? If he comes up, makes 2, 3, 4 starts, whatever it takes to kind of help Imanaga, he could very well go back to Iowa, possibly even ratchet things down to move into more of a relief role to curtail his overall innings limit for the season, and then come back up later in the season as a reliever if they wanted to do it that way. That's what I've been saying the whole time, that I felt like they wanted to do, although kind of in reverse order. So like what they did with Justin Steele, where he came up early in the season as a rookie, worked in relief for a while. Again, they could keep his innings down a little bit, moved him back to Iowa, stretched him out again. Then he came up and started toward the end of the season. But that was a different situation that was not about trying to make a playoff run. And I don't want to see like a Steven Strasburg thing where, if you recall the one season where he was kind of coming back and they're like, your innings limit is capped right here. Once you hit that, we are shutting him down for the year. And it's like, the last thing you need is to have this dude, if he's pitching well, to go, yeah, sorry, can't use you in the postseason. So I do think that they'll do some things to probably limit his innings while leaving him available for a run if they feel like he can contribute to it. So I just want to see what the kid can do. I got to, like I said, I've mentioned this before, but got to see his season debut here in Indianapolis and looked really good. He pitched in a lot of really bad weather early on. Like, he was basically pitching in the rain, I think, his first 3 starts. And so that says a lot about, but I think some of the walks and things like that the weather was a contributing factor. So being able to see him pitch in some good weather in the summer against maybe only one good team and then 3 very bad ones, I think is that could be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Do you think there's a world where, or a possibility where Chris Flexen is the opener on Saturday and then Cade Horton comes in the second or third inning?
I mean, it could be, but I would rather not. I mean, I feel like they've signaled their intent with that. I mean, with Flexen going back to back the last couple games, like he could, but I don't like the opener thing unless you've got a dude. And Flexen's pitched pretty well in the minors. He's looked okay when he's been up with the Cubs, but like, is that the guy? Like, do you want him going in there and having him facing Juan Soto and some of these other, especially with a right on left like that? Like, I don't know. Because what if you put Horton in a hole to begin with?
Like, that's the biggest thing.
I say throw him into the deep end, man. If this is the dude, if he's the guy you think he's supposed to be, put him out there. And if he does get beat up by some of these, if he has a rough time, cool. He'll figure it out. He's had those before. He'll get over it. Mm-hmm. I don't like this idea of like babying guys. Oh, we got to give him a salt. Like, no, put him in there. Like, Rush Shaw up, they sent him out to Tokyo to face the Dodgers. Like, this team is okay with having some of their young guys start out in a tough situation. So I'm all for it. And I want to see that too. I don't want you to try to find this situational little loophole. Like, I want to see your best against my best. Let's go. Bring it, face those guys and go and see if you can beat them. And if you can, I think there's more positive by far to be gained from him going out and pitching well against a good team than there would be negative impact of him not pitching well against that good team, if that makes sense, right? Like, I think that could create a whole bunch of momentum, and I don't think pitching poorly will stunt his growth in any way, shape, or form.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see what happens. I'm expecting that he will, if he gets called up, he will pitch on Saturday one way or the other. So that'll be exciting to see. Yeah. So cool. So we'll circle back in a few days, and hopefully it'll be to talk about the Cubs series win against the Mets and Cade Horton striking out 12, going 6 innings.
Sounds good.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Boy can dream.
Until then, thanks for joining us. Follow us on all the socials, do all the things. Go to CubsInsider.com. We love you, and thanks for your support.
See ya.